So this is a new chair design for myself, and I built it on the fly as per usual. So off camera, I did actually take a little bit of time and I did draw up and cut out a template, as you can see is drawn round now. This was very simple. I used 6mm ply, and it was definitely worth taking the time to draw. The whole idea behind this chair was that I was going to use kiln dried oak, which I did use, and obviously there was going to be no steam bending, and I wanted this to be as simple as possible and for the chair to look actually quite good, and I wanted it to be a quick build. My last build, which was kind of in the way of a well-stick chair, it just took far too long. Once everything was marked out, I started cutting things out. So here is just to show you that this chair can be built with hand tools, and it can be cut out with a regular saw or a Ryoba saw, which I'm using here. Now, I will admit that I do have a track saw, and because I have a track saw, I only done one of these legs. That was solely just to show that it is actually possible to build one of these chairs with hand tools. Once everything was cut out, I glued and clamped everything together. So in hindsight, it probably would have been better to glue the two boards together first. It probably would have made it a bit easier, but it wasn't too bad this way, and in all my wisdom, for whatever reason, I just thought it would have been better to actually cut everything out first and then glue it rather than glue it first. So obviously you've seen us gluing the two back legs and the two front legs together. Once the glue was dry, I used my number 4 and my spoke shave just to clean things up. It didn't take too much time at all. I did also remove about 4mm of material. This was just to thin the thickness down a little bit. I thought it was a little bit too thick. Next up, I started making the dowels for the seat portion. So I will say here that I did remove quite a lot of material for us to be able to use the jig that you can see, and if I'm honest, I didn't think much of this jig. I think I paid about £11 for it, but I wish I'd have just took the time and removed more material with the plane and just finished it with the plane. Obviously, after I'd used that jig, I did have to sand it quite a lot, and when I'd finished with that, I just cut all the dowel to size. Bearing in mind we was building this on the fly, I did actually cut these numerous times till I was happy with the dimensions, basically the width and the depth of the chair itself. I'm using a template here to reapply the centre lines. So the reason for this is that once all the centre lines are back on, I can work out where my dowels are going to be drilled. Obviously this needs to be bang on. So once I'm marked out, I punched for the holes, and what made this simple is that I used this little jig. So this little jig, it was about £18, and I've used it on quite a few things. And my thesis behind this, or the idea behind this, was to actually use this to get a 90-degree hole, pilot hole that is, and then use my 3/4 inch drill bits and drill down with this, and basically it just follows the pilot hole down, which gives us a nice straight 90-degree angle. So when my dowels are sticking out, they are like really straight. So I put the thing together, and this just basically allows us to see how things are going and basically to get some measurements. And I did need to trim the back 2 legs, and this was just to make things a little bit easier for myself as I'm working on it. So I do actually trim them. After those are trimmed, this allows me to actually drill for the two side stretchers. In hindsight, I think what I should have done was to glue the two boards together before I cut them out, then glued them together. If I had done that, I could have used a little jig to drill the pilot holes and I wouldn't have had to line things up. But as it happens, it did actually go quite well. Next, I made a start on the backrest. So, as I stated in the start of this video, I didn't want to be steam bending anything, and to be honest, I didn't even have any green oak to steam bend. And I didn't want to take the time to soak the oak, so there was actually quite a bit of shaping involved in the backrest, and if I'm at all honest, I should have took the time and I should have shaped it a little bit more, and I should have added a little bit of extra thickness to the backrest so I could have got more of a curvature when you're all actually sitting back on it. So this is just a standard procedure, what I tend to do when I'm making any sort of an arch. So basically I will use a saw, cut curve marks, remove the material quite quickly with a chisel, then finish up with spoke shaves, other planes, and some sandpaper, usually a scraper as well. Done this on the both sides, and once this was done, I made a start on the mortises. So the mortises are quite quick to do when you do them like this. So this is my standard procedure for actually cutting the mortises. I use a drill, remove most of the material, and just pair things up with chisels. When I was happy with the fit, I started to add some curvature into the backrest. So as I said before, this was a lot of work and I should have used a thicker material so I could have put more of a curve in it. This would have been a bit more comfortable when you're sitting on it. The chair itself isn't too bad to sit on, but I just feel it would have been more comfortable with more of a curve in the backrest. And obviously I took all this time to do it, you know, for the sake of a little bit extra time. I think it would have been more comfortable. So once I'd done some of the curvature around it, it's off, just so it feels nice, you know, when you're touching it and stuff. So I marked out for a taper on the inside of the legs, and I also done this for the front legs as well. I removed the waist portion above the backrest, and then I removed some of the material with the Ryoba saw, and then I finish off with a plane. This is just for the inside of the back legs, the taper. I think it adds to the design. Once all the tapers were added to the four legs, I started to remove all the corners. So it didn't take too much time, but it was added time, but I do feel it was necessary for the design. Rounding all the corners off. You could even do this with a router, but I chose to do it with hand planes and files and whatnot. This is just how I like to do it, and I do feel it adds to the design and obviously to the comfort. So once that was done, I just went over very quickly with 120 grit. And I've done exactly the same with the front legs as well. Just removed the corners, started rounding them. Very easy to do. Off camera, I did actually do a dry fit with the whole entire chair, and I did actually have to compress some of the fibres on the dowels so they went in the hole, and I did even have to take a plane to some of them. So here you can actually see us using liquid hide glue. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of liquid hide glue. I've had a little bit of a bad experience with it in the past. But the idea behind this was that because the chair is for myself, and should the chair incur any damage in the future, I should be able to take the chair apart. Yeah. So I added some technician's tape, and this is just to protect the backrest from getting damaged by the file or sandpaper. And I'm just working on the corner that's really close to the shoulders, just so everything's rounded over and nice to the feel. Then I do the final leveling of the feet. There is a little bit of discrepancy there, so it did need to be done. I then put a small chamfer on all 4 legs just to stop any of the material splitting when it's getting moved about. And the final job was to give it a sanding with 220 grit sandpaper, and then I was ready for the finish. So the finish is just the usual finish what I've been using for a while now, and this is the Sambaloof finish with the beeswax. So I did give this 3 coats, I think, 2-3 coats. Very generous when I was applying it, and I did apply it while it was hot. Once the finish was dried, I did start weaving. So this was the initial first style of weaving I'd done, and I made a right balls of it, and I wasn't happy with it. So I did start with this weave, and I do feel it's better, it looks better, and I'm so happy that I did take the time to actually change. What I will say here, anyone that's planning to do this sort of weaving, it does take an eternity. There's probably quicker ways for you to actually weave, but I'm not aware of those at the moment. But I do have another 3 of these to build, so I do actually want to look into this a bit more. So guys, what do you think of the design? Leave a comment and let me know, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching.